Hi everybody, this is Tony from bluebutterflycreations.blogspot.com, and today I have a Copic coloring tutorial to show you. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using some of the techniques out of the new Copic coloring guide. This is the level 2 nature, and I'm going to use some of the techniques they do in this book, but I highly recommend this book if you enjoy using Copic markers. It gives you a lot of great ideas on using the markers. And what's even better about this is not only is there projects and how-tos, but there's this disc that you can insert into your computer and print the images off of. So you can follow along with the book to do the reflecting pond tutorial, to do the wishing well, to do the fruit, a variety of other tutorials in here. So I'm going to be using the 10+2 rule and the outside the color family rules today. I'm currently working on a Cat's Life page, as well as a series of cards for my parents who are coming up on their 27th wedding anniversary, and they have a very spoiled cat. So what better than some chubby kitties? And I actually purchased this adorable chubby kitty stamp from Penny Black, and I'm going to just bring this in so you can see the detail there. And that is the chubby kitty and a bunch of daisies. So I'm going to be using Copics to color this cat. And I have mine actually in a cling. I'm going to be using Memento Tuxedo Black to do this. I have my acrylic block. I have a cream colored smooth paper. One of the papers that Copic recommends for use with their markers. I'm going to ink up my stamp. Make sure there's plenty of ink. And I'm going to center it so that way I know I have plenty of room, and apply the pressure all over the stamp. Make sure I get a crisp image. There we go. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see. There we go. I'm going to center this kitty here. There we go. So what I decided to do is I'm going to be using the R22 and R35 to color in the little flowers, the little flowers on the outside of the daisies. And because I'm using chows, there is not an R34, which would be the 10+2 rule. So I went to the 35. You can go to the 31 below it, and that'll be just fine as well. So I'm going to take my light pond, which is the R22, and I'm just going to feather in some of the color to those little flowers. Because I don't want a super high saturation. I want it to look kind of soft and natural. There's a few over here. Now I'm going to take my R35 and I'm just going to add a little bit darker color towards the outer edges. So I'm just feathering that over. Small little brush strokes. Not heavily saturating, just a little, get some color, add some depth to the flowers. Not being perfect, just want to add a little depth and dimension. There. Now I'm going to take the YR31, which is a light reddish yellow, and I'm just going to add some color to the centers of these flowers here, to the daisies. I'm just going to go around once and fill in the centers, and then I'm going to come back and add another coat to darken the color. So now I'm going to come back in, add a little bit of depth, trimming around the flower leaves there, the flower petals, give a little more depth and detail. Sweeping strokes where I want it to be darkest. There. Now I'm going to start working on my cat. And what I'm going to do is I want to keep it kind of in the gray tones of the family, because my parents' cat has more of the warm tones in her coat. So I'm starting off with the warm gray 0, and I'm just going to go over the entire cat body here, down at the tail, because this is going to be my base color. Just filling them in. I'm not being super perfect, just kind of making sure all that open space of the stamped image is filled in with this lighter gray around the face here. A little bit over here where that line is, filling it in. Back over. And his toes. There. Now I'm going to come back in with the warm gray number 1. I'm just going to add a little bit of feathering where the edges of those darker areas are, so it overlaps and comes out a little bit. Just go over that. Not being super perfect. It's okay if I go a little over those darker areas into the lighter. That'll help give me some of the character of the cat. A little bit up here by his head. Into the ear. And his tail. Feathering that out a little. There. Now I'm going to come back in with my warm gray number 3. I'm going to do the same idea, by keeping a little more to the center of those darker areas. Just adding a little more depth to them, a little more gray tone. Some sweeping strokes here. It's okay if you go a little over, just adds to the character of the cat. A little more towards the center here and here. A little bit down here. Now I'm going to come in with my warm gray number 5, and this is the darkest one that I'm using. I'm really defining now where those areas are that I want the darkest texture. I'm just kind of staying towards them. Then I'm going to come in with my YR31 again, which is the light reddish yellow. And I'm just going to blend a little bit into his fur in areas that I want a little more warmth. So like a head area, just a little bit. Nothing too out there, just a little warmth. Okay. Then I have the YG17, which is the grass green. And this, I'm gonna just fill in some of the areas in between the flowers. Just fill in lightly. I'm going to fill in the stem of the flower he's holding in his mouth very gently. Make some grass down in here around his tail. Just underneath him. Not being too sharp in my lines. I just want a little color. So I'm going to come back in with a darker color and add some shading. As well as my blender pen. So I'm going to get my blender pen. I'm just going to gently go over this. Push some of the color around and spread it out. Just a little bit here and there. Soften the edges. That's really what I just want to do, is soften it. This will also help give it the texture to look like grass. Come up here, a little bit in here. Being very careful of where I put this because I don't want it to get onto my flowers. And if you can see that, it's kind of just mellowed out the color and smoothed out some of the swirling and the feathering that I did. So now I'm going to come in with my G07, and this is the Nile green. I'm just going to darken up some corners here, a little bit underneath him for some of that shadow. And because I'm applying this directly over where the blender pen was, and it's still kind of moist, it's going to help soften and blend. And if I find that it's a little too much, I can come back in with that blender pen and allow it a little more to soften areas. So I'm going to just do that and sweep out some of the color here, soften that up and blend it. Create some of that shadow and depth. Just like that. Now, because this is a lemon creature, I'm going to just take my W0 again, which is the warm gray. I'm just going to go a little bit outside of the critter here and add some dimension. Just a little bit where I really want him to pop. I'm just going to do it right there. So it's all going to be along his back side, really. Just like that. Now, I have my butterfly up there that I need to color, as well as the collar. And I kind of want them to match. So I'm going to go with my B00, which is the frost blue, to start. And I'm just going to feather into the butterfly here. Just kind of fill it in a little. I'm also going to come in here to its collar. Just a little there. I'm going to leave the collar the solid blue color. I'm going to try and zoom this in so you can see it better. There we go. Down. There you go. So I did the B00 frost blue to start my butterfly. So I'm going to do that 10+2 rule, which brings me up to the ice blue. And I'm just going to feather that in from the outer edges of the butterfly. Just to add a little more to it. Then I'm going to do the 10+2 again. And that would bring you to sky. B24, but I like the B23 better, so I'm going to use that. It's a little bit softer, so I'm just going to do that right around the edges here, just like that. And that is the butterfly, so I'm going to back this out. Can see. So this is my final kitty using the Copic 2 tutorials, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of bluebutterflycreations.blogspot.com.